How might life be with AI? It's important for us to have a positive vision of the future that we're working towards because as we've been all concerned and paying attention to all of the crazy things happening in the world right now, a lot of which relate to Donald Trump and sort of his very unhinged behavior, the truth is that we should also have a goal, an end state that we think is important and we can mobilize people towards. And I think that AI is going to be a big part of the future, whether for good or ill, is up to us. And in order to talk about what I think a good future with AI would look like, I first want to talk about a couple things just about human history and nature in general, because I think that when you study history, you realize that many things we sort of take for granted are just part of the human condition. In reality, are not really an intrinsic part of the human condition so much as something that we have forced on ourselves or adopted in response to our circumstances. And one of those things is society's current, essentially, worshiping of work. Right, work ethic is seen as a very positive thing, and hustle culture is a big thing. Religions themselves actually sort of make suffering sacred in a sense. A lot of them do. You look at Mother Teresa, for example, who was like widely renowned as this great person. And some of you already know this, but in reality, she didn't care at all about relieving the suffering of the people that she worked with. And in fact, her hospitals were like really bad because they didn't use painkiller or anything because she thought that suffering was holy. And we kind of do the same thing with work. It sucks to go to work every single day. And so we've turned it into something that we couldn't live without. We've said, oh, of course we have to do this because it's just part of what makes life, it's part of the spice of life to do this. But while that may be true that it's necessary to do right now, I don't think that we should fetishize it and say that, oh, well, AI, if eventually AI comes and takes all the jobs, that necessarily will destroy the meaning that we find in life, because in reality, there have been lots of classes of people who have not found meaning in work and have been happier than us. Hunter-gatherers, for example, are fascinating because they actually have higher life satisfaction than most groups in industrial or agricultural society. And in fact, when agriculture was first adopted, one truly horrific thing that a lot of agricultural societies did was human sacrifice. And that's so bizarre. You read the historical annals and it's like, the Carthaginians were doing this, the Romans did this early on in their history, the Aztecs were doing this, the ancient Chinese, it's all over the place. And why was this so universal? It's because prior to becoming agricultural, they had been hunter-gatherers. And you read the founding myths of these societies, and a lot of them look very similar to the kind of story that's found in Adam and Eve, if you're familiar with that, where humanity is in a state of nature and they're happy there, life is good. Then all of a sudden they're forced into human society, usually because of some kind of sin or something that they do, sometimes just because the gods are messing with them. And so all these early societies believed, well, clearly we've made some sort of god or deity or something angry, and that's why life sucks so much now. So maybe if we just put all of our sins into this one person, and then later on society switched from human sacrifice to animal sacrifice, or into this one, goat or whatever, and sacrifice that goat, then God won't be angry with us anymore. The gods won't be angry with us anymore. And, this story is found in the Bible, it's found in ancient Mesopotamia, it's found actually all over the world, that humanity was in a state of nature and then for some reason was forced out, and we're just trying to get back to that. And so I don't think that it's, inherent in the human psyche to find meaning in work or to find it desirable. I think it's something that we almost have a little bit of Stockholm syndrome about. And so if AI came and it took all the jobs, people are really worried about what that would do to society. And I am too, to some extent, because the mere fact that we could live happy lives just, exploring nature, learning about the world, making music and art, whatever, doesn't necessarily mean that's what will happen for everyone. Another possibility is that tech billionaires like Elon Musk will simply try to take as much of the pie for themselves as possible and kind of cut a lot of people off. Which is one reason I'm so concerned about politics right now. I actually think that's one reason why Donald Trump won, is because these tech billionaires saw that Trump was going to be really good for them. Not only does he regulate them very favorably, but he also absorbs a lot of the heat that we really should be directing at them. because he's so awful. He's so uniquely awful that every single day is some new scandal that would have ended any prior American presidency. And so that creates, a lot of stress just day to day of what's he going to do next. And we're not talking about the long term. What do we actually want the future to look like as AI changes so much? Another aspect of this is that I think people are very anxious about the future. And so a figure like Donald Trump that promises a return to the past is very attractive. But we can't return to the past. It's the past. We need to talk about the future and what it has in store for us and how we're going to make sure that it works for everybody. Because again, I don't think it's necessarily the case that AI is automatically going to be amazing for humanity. But I think that if we choose to make it amazing, it can be. I think we could return to actually even something even better than a hunter-gatherer state, because even hunter-gatherers, even though they didn't have the day-to-day stress that necessarily is inherent really in agricultural or industrial society, they did still, sometimes have to deal with famine or something. And if we had something, AI systems that, were capable of essentially taking care of society for us, then we could spend our time on philosophy and learning and art and exploring nature, connecting with friends, all of the things that really make life beautiful and are enjoyable to do. And so in a sense, we've kind of been blindly groping our whole time as a species back towards trying to make it back to the Garden of Eden. And AI gives us the opportunity to actually make that a reality if we fight for it. And that's my hope.